Hello once again. So I almost made that last video, the final video of the documentary, but then I realized, nope, there is one more strategy that I absolutely must share about. If I had not had the foresight to use this strategy from the very beginning, I would have been stuck with a really difficult problem and a lot of extra work. So that's what I want to share about today. So when we were touring this house and deciding that, yes, this is the house that we want to buy, we were looking at the empty spaces with our realtor. Of course, my husband and I chatted about how each space would be used. Thankfully, the kids naturally wanted different bedrooms, so we didn't have to deal with any argument there. And it was pretty obvious where my office would go, how we would set up the furniture and the family room and things like that. But then we came across some spaces that were not so obvious. Specifically, at the end of the hallway over there, I'm upstairs right now, so at the end of the upstairs hallway, there's this walk-in storage closet with a bunch of empty shelves. It's awesome. And off the top of my head, I could think of like a dozen different uses for that space. I could put the extra bedding there, or the sentimental stuff could go there, the luggage could go there. At one point, when I was concerned about not having enough storage space in the kitchen, I thought, hey, maybe even the fancy china could go up there. Now, this kind of space that has a lot of flexibility also holds tremendous power. And that power can be used either for good or for evil. I know I sound like I'm giving some sort of a trailer to a superhero movie, but I'm actually being quite serious. If we're not careful, those flexible storage spaces can become a black hole, like the Bermuda Triangle, where random assortment of stuff goes never to be seen again. On the other hand, if we use them thoughtfully, that flexible storage space can save you right when you need saving the most. And I promise you, you will need saving. Every time you move from one home to another, something is going to go wrong. You are going to encounter a major problem. This is not being pessimistic. This is just being realistic. It happens every time. And if you don't believe me, go ask any other military family that moves every 2 to 3 years, and they can back me up on this. Even when you are moving from a smaller home and expanding into a larger home, at some point you're going to bump into a major obstacle, a problem that needs solving. So that's why when we began to make plans for this house, I just operated under the assumption that something would go wrong. I didn't know ahead of time what the problem would be exactly, but I figured it had to be something, and experience has taught me that that flexible storage space could very well end up being my miracle solution. With that in mind, I didn't want to fill it up with a bunch of stuff that could just as easily have gone somewhere else. And so what I chose to do was close the door to that closet and pretend it didn't exist. Once I committed to protecting that flexible space, other storage solutions began to present themselves. The extra bedding and the luggage fit just fine in the top shelves of the closets of all of the bedrooms. The extra guest towels, they fit just fine in the bathroom vanity. I came across the wrapping paper. Where should I put this? I'll put it in one of the dresser drawers in the guest bedroom. Not necessarily the most ideal solution, but as long as it wasn't an emergency, I didn't open the door to the closet. And then it happened. We were about halfway through the unpacking process when I finally encountered the inevitable giant problem. Now, just to give you a little bit of context, the room that I'm sitting in right now is above the garage. So some point in the past, the owners of the home decided to expand above the garage, creating a quite large but oddly shaped bonus room. So we decided to give this room 3 different purposes. The front half over there has the guest bed and the dresser, that's the guest area. That side of the room over there has all of my husband's music stuff and his desk with his computer. And this corner was going to be, as you can see, the play area. So when we were touring the house, it all worked out beautifully in my mind. It wasn't until we started setting up the furniture that I realized, this isn't gonna work. Once we got the guest bedroom furniture in place and we set up my husband's music area, this corner had been reduced to this tiny little, I think it's 8 feet by 10 feet at the most. Now, if you've seen any of the videos from the basement of my old Colorado house, you see me sitting in front of this big bank of cubicle shelves filled with bins of toys. And on one side is the Lego cart, and on the other side are 2 art carts. I mean, it was big. And there was no way that all of that was going to fit here. Even though we downsized a bunch before we moved, my kids still have a lot of stuff. And as you can see, this little area is only enough for the Lego cart and a couple of bins of toys. Where were we going to put all of the rest of my kids' playthings? Dun, dun, dun! The moving crisis rears its ugly head. My kids came to me with so much fear and worry. Where are we going to put our toys, Mommy? Flexible storage space, to the rescue! I just walked them down to the end of the hallway. I opened that mystery door and they saw this big, empty closet. Their relief was almost comical. It was like, yay, this can be the toy closet. They were so excited. And I must say, it felt quite luxurious to have all that extra space. All the board games and the puzzles fit nicely in there. All of the bins of toys fit in there. We filled 2 whole shelves of nothing but books to take the pressure off of their bedrooms. Even the art carts turned out to roll beautifully right underneath one of the shelves. Like, it was perfect. Now, if I had not protected that flexible space, if I had filled it from the beginning with perfectly reasonable stuff like extra bedding and luggage and things like that, I still could have solved the toy problem, but it would have been much harder. Yes, I could have rearranged things and transformed that closet into the toy closet, but it would have meant taking hours to pull everything off of those shelves, reorganize the other closets and dressers and things to find room for all of it, and then move all of the toys in. That would have been another couple of long nights, which I didn't want to do. Or I could have found less than ideal solutions. I could have said, we'll just cram all the toys in the play area and let it be overcrowded. Or I could have put the kids through another painful round of downsizing. So it's not as if the toy problem would have been impossible to solve, but saving that flexible space until that crisis occurred made the problem so much easier to solve. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when we were doing the tour of this house, I had no idea that the toys would end up being my big crisis. It could just as easily have been something else. But I knew that no matter what problem we faced, protecting that storage closet, that flexible space, would only do me good. And even if, let's say just for the sake of argument, that we went through this whole process and never encountered a big problem, I still would not have regretted protecting that space, because just knowing that it was there, knowing that it was available just in case, that gave me peace of mind as I unpacked each of the other rooms. So now here we are 3 months later, we're settled into the house. It is time to wrap up this mini documentary. But you know what? This segment is long enough already, so I think I'm going to do the wrap up in one last video.